our roll call. This executive committee meeting is being conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Brown Act to facilitate teleconferencing and to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission at public meetings. Ordinarily, the Brown Act sets strict rules for teleconferencing. AB 361 suspends some of these rules during a state of emergency, where state and local officials have recommended social distancing. The Brown Act continues to require that we notice meetings in advance and allow the public to participate. The executive committee meeting has met all applicable noticing requirements, and the public is welcome to participate in this meeting. If you wish to be recognized during public comment, please fill out a public comment speaker form found at ebce.org/meetings and use the raise hand feature in Zoom. You'll be recognized for 3 minutes. Comments can also be submitted online at ebce.org/meetings. And with that, I could take a roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy.
Present.
Thank you. Oakland. Emeryville.
Here.
Thank you. Fremont. San Leandro.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And so we'll move on to the public comment on non-agendized items. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we do. We have one member of the public with a hand raised. Blair Beekman, I'll recognize you for 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Happy October executive meeting. I just want to thank you for your work on the what's it called? The IRP. I'm genius at work here. IRP report. Thank you. You know, it's been you've actually spent 2 months now talking on the issues of it. I'm still concerned with how we can more clearly talk about the future of kind of the mystery energy packages within EBCE that I think can be better clarified in our future, and I think can really help name our nuclear use better, and we can have a more clear view exactly where we stand with nuclear, that I don't think we'll need much more, and we can be hopefully working towards less. To make those things more clear, I just think would be of help to everyone. It would be a good service, good practicality, and in all your IPR reports or IRP reports, that mystery energy factor is looming large, and it was worrisome to myself that we don't know how to better talk about that. I mean, that's what 30 or 40% of that we don't know how to really fully talk about openly yet, and that I hope energy-wise, that I hope we can learn to do that. If I'm not mistaken. So thanks a lot. And as always, boy, as we're trying to build an electric future, it's just a really important point that we consider the concepts of worker rights issues in different countries that mine the rare earth minerals that we'll be using for our electrification process in the future. I think if we concentrate on good worker rights issues now for those people, it sets up a pattern that, is just our human decency and concepts of good human rights practices that I think would stave off what I think will be inevitable, that we're going to have war situations going on in those regions that are going to be mining those minerals. And it just seems to be looming on the horizon to have a good set of worker rights and human rights issues set in place beforehand. I think can help stave off those sort of worries. So it's just been all around, and it just develops our better human selves. So it just has to be considered in the future how we consider the electrification process of our future. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. If there are no further speakers.
Thank you very much, Clerk. We'll move on to our regular agenda. We will have the approval of the minutes followed by 2 informational items this afternoon. So we'll go ahead and go through the minutes. Would anybody would like to amend the minutes? And if not, I don't see any hands raised. Would anybody like to move the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. A motion made by Member Ariola, seconded by Member Martinez. We'll go ahead and vote for the passage of the minutes as agendized.
Thank you. Tracy,
Yes.
Oakland, Emeryville,
Aye.
Fremont, San Leandro.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to our first informational item this afternoon, titled Health E Communities Partnership. I'll go ahead and turn it over to staff for that.
Adrian, can you pull up the slides, please? All right, next slide. Okay, so I've given sort of an overview of most of these slides, but I can quickly reiterate the Healthy Communities Partnership Program. At this point in time, is premised on the idea that East Bay Community Energy will partner with public health providers to deliver residential electrification retrofits in households where there are residents who suffer from asthma, and do so in ways that help these public health entities demonstrate the long-term public health benefits, particularly in households where folks have asthma, of taking gas combustion out and putting electrification measures in place. So that's kind of at a very high level, kind of what we've articulated the goals to be. Next slide. As part of this, I think that the view is to focus East Bay Community Energy's investments on the electrification and the acquisition of these households, and to work closely with public health providers as well to in the acquisition, but also support them as they're trying to enhance their overall capabilities to provide a better level of treatment and care for folks with asthma, particularly folks that have acute asthma, and kind of emphasizing the elderly and the young. And so with that in mind, while our funds are going to focus on the electrification retrofits, we do want to seek to recruit partners that can leverage external funding to support this initiative and this work, and support their efforts to secure this funding. And the kinds of places we would expect to sort of go are the Environmental Protection, whether it's the US EPA, the US HSS, the Air Resources Board, or philanthropy, or those are all sources of funding that we're going to be helping these partners try to secure to kind of run this transformative program. Next slide, please. So at our last board meeting, there was some discussion about how to make this, how to give some direction to staff with this current board. And so, the request was to come up with some high level, kind of a high level action item and parameters that could be included in a board action that then staff could work on. And, though a future board will have to make the final approval, that future board would be operating knowing that this current board has, set these parameters. So this are as such, we staff have developed a framework for discussion here and potentially action next month, this next board meeting. So the action proposed is to direct EDC staff to move forward to develop a full proposal to implement the Healthy Communities Partnership with EDC funding up to $15 million towards home electrification projects that benefit residents with asthma over the next 3 years, and return to the board of directors for review and approval of the full proposal in 2023. So, within that, it's allocating these funds for residential electrification projects, like induction cooking retrofits or heat pump retrofits for households or one or more residents suffers from asthma. How did we come with 15 million? Well, one, the $15 million does end up aligning with sort of our current Healthy Homes program incentive and loan levels. So, if you're targeting 1,000 households and we're providing up to $10,000 incentives and up to $5,000 in low interest financing, 15,000 per household for 1,000 households, that's $15 million. Now, I would expect there's going to be some overhead and there are customer acquisition costs built into the 15 million, but not every household would necessarily receive the full $10,000 in incentive. In our Healthy Homes program, our incentives range from up to 10,000 based on income. So there are moderate income households that can get a lower incentive, and our lowest income households get the full incentive. We would very likely want to match or mimic the incentives here there for continuity perspective. Other program parameters: prioritize low-income household and multifamily housing, establish partnerships with an ecosystem of electrification equipment and deployment partners, establish partnerships with local, state, and federal agencies working at the nexus of public health, asthma care, and home electrification. Establish partnerships with one or more public health partners to support acquisition of patients into the program. Establish partnerships with one or more public health partner to design and implement a coordinated research program to evaluate the long-term benefits of home electrification for asthma patients, and support efforts of these entities to secure necessary funding to participate in the Healthy Communities Partnership. So that is it. I think we can.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. And I really appreciate everyone, the whole team at EBCE for, keeping on top of this and getting all of the comments as we go dynamically included into the presentations. One of the things I pride about RCCA is that it does have a lot of agility and it pivots in real time. So I appreciate all of that work that you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our e-board for any clarifying questions, and we'll follow that with public comment. If you can raise your hand, either one. I don't see any hands raised for clarifying questions, then we'll go ahead and move to public comment. And I will provide 3 minutes. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We have 2 hands raised, Jim Letts and Barbara Stebbins. Jim Letts, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Jim Lutz, I'm on the Community Advisory Committee, but I'm speaking for myself, not for the committee. My question, I have a couple questions. One is this going to interfere at all with the rollout of the low to moderate income electrification program that was approved, I believe, 2 months ago? And I sincerely hope not, but that's a question. And then the other ones are you working with the Alameda Public Health, I guess it's agency, because they did a very excellent report a few years back on the health impacts of living in the low income, in the flats in Oakland. I don't think those were called disadvantaged communities then, but it very much lines up with those. So I hope you get input from organizations like that. And that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Barbara Stebbins, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Barbara Stebbins speaking today for Local Clean Energy Alliance and East Bay Clean Power Alliance. We are pleased to see that the revised proposal indicates that staff has listened to the comments of community and of the board. This version of Healthy Communities seems to be aligned with EBCE's mission and could address issues of energy equity and energy justice. We might like to see the language of who is going to be included in receiving, especially the electrification benefits of the program. We look forward to seeing more details in the future. This proposal is looking like exactly what environmental justice communities need from their local community choice energy program. Thanks to staff for working on this and coming back with a new proposal. That's it.
Thank you very much. I
There's no-
see no, okay, I see no further hands raised. So we'll go ahead and move on to the discussion portion of this presentation. Would either member like to provide an opinion or would like to discuss the agenda item? I see no hands raised. Oh, member Ariola, go ahead.
Thank you. I thought I raised my hand. I just want to say that I'm in support of the direction that we're going here. I know that when we talked about our new communities joining EBC, a lot of the discussion revolved around investing in our communities. I think this is a particularly great way to do so. I just kind of also wanted to highlight, I know that I'm not the Stockton representative, but in the Central Valley, because of our geography, we are with really bad air quality just because of the geography of the Altamont. And in South Stockton in particular, there's been studies and they have some of the worst asthma rates in the nation, and it's very problematic. So I think this is an incredible way to making sure that we're investing in the areas that need the most, particularly, you know, our low income and historically marginalized communities. And I think that this is how we sold it, and it is very impressive to see that we were able to pivot. So thank you to staff and thank you to the community for speaking out, and look forward to continuing in this direction.
Thank you so much for your comment. I'll go ahead and sort of echo that sentiment, thanking staff again, thanking the community for all the feedback, all of the emails coming in the middle of the day and on a Friday to do public comment. I believe that the public is satisfied with the changes, and we'll continue to, evolve this conversation. I'm really glad that this particular board is able to set direction that the future board will be able to massage through in details. So I will just, echo again, Member Ariola, in that, especially with our service area expanding, and that particular community of Stockton suffering really a lot of environmental justice issues with air quality, not only with the pollution, but also with pesticide exposure. I think that we are going to make a real impact. And I think that we're going to be setting something up that many other CCAs will look to replicate going forward. And I hope that we do reach critical mass at some point here in this state and beyond with what we're doing. So I just want to thank again our CEO, Nick, our whole team. I could name them all, but then I would be afraid to leave somebody out. So everybody here is an A-team member. We'll move on to the next informational item. And that again, we're just providing some feedback and so forth. We're not voting. And so the next informational item is item 5, municipal electrification financing. And I'll turn it over to staff.
Great. Okay. Next slide, please. So in our current year budget, we had set aside $2 million to fund municipal electrification projects. The intent here was to provide funds through no or low cost financing to municipalities to pursue these electrification projects, with cities able to submit project proposals to EBC during an open season for projects that will commence during open season for projects, with a real emphasis on trying to find projects that are really going to commence construction in the near term. As it happens, we've been in conversations with the city of Piedmont about a municipal electrification project that they are working on. They are seeking to electrify their pool. The combustion of natural gas from the heating of the community pool is, I believe, the largest, if not one of, if not the largest single source of greenhouse gas emissions in the city. And so they are seeking our support or our help to leverage some of these funds to help bridge the gap between what they've gotten approved and the cost of this project. And so the opportunity there is to allocate $500,000 to support this project through a, again, to be determined what the exact interest rate is, but allocate $500,000 that will be repaid to EVC by the city of Piedmont to fund this capital cost. So what staff is proposing is to begin working with Piedmont to structure the $500,000 of financing, while in parallel launching a call for projects that's open to all EVC member cities. If indeed EVC receives more than 1.5 million in project proposals, staff recommends increasing the budget for this program up to a not to exceed of $6 million. So we're seeking some feedback on, kind of the general level of comfort with working with Piedmont on a parallel path to opening up a broader call for projects eligible to all cities, kind of with the recognition that we're in pretty close contact with all of our cities, and this is the only project, at least I'm aware of, that is a shovel ready and is clearly in need of these funds. That is the only slide, Adrian. So
Okay. Do we have any clarifying questions from any of the members? Member Martinez.
Thank you. So is the idea, Nick, that we would have a $2 million line item every year for the agency for available to all of our agencies to apply into this program, or some sort of revolving fund if it's
I think
0% financing? What's the idea in the long term?
I think it would be I think one, we want to sort of demonstrate that this is solving a problem that cities have. So to date, we are only aware of one project where this particular sort of structure, where it's essentially a no or very low interest loan, but it is repaid, right? We certainly, if these were grant dollars, it would be a different situation. I think every city would be like, yes, please give me grant money, but there are a lot of grants out there. What we're saying is, no, we want these dollars to be repaid so that we can recycle them, whether it's into more municipal electrification projects or other local programs, somewhat going to be based on the level of demand. But I think to start, we want to run this program and see what the level of interest is. With a revolver, really you start to be able to, in year 3, 4, or 5, start to be able to just really recycle the dollars because you've gotten enough repayments. So I think one way to look at this could be, you could run this as a 3-year program or 3 years of funding in, and then by year 4, it should be evergreen because you just have money being recycled back in over and over and over again.
That's great, because I think for my city, this is a really good time to catch us at the beginning of a CIP process. So I'll definitely bring it to staff. But I could see us taking advantage of this in the next 3 years, but it might not. We're not shovel ready like Piedmont. So I feel like we'll have it with examination of our climate action plan and might be able to reprioritize things to move things up the list that might be aided by this funding.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other further clarifying questions? I see no other hands raised. We'll go
Dan,
ahead
did
and
you have your hand raised? I did see your hand raised.
I had the exact same question, so thank you.
thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to public comment.
There are no
Yeah.
hands raised for public comment.
Okay, no hands raised for public comment. And we'll come back for discussion by any of the members. Let's say, see no hands raised. Okay, well, then we'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. And this meeting is moving right along. And so the next agenda item it's item 6, and that's any member and staff announcements, including requests to place.
The request I guess I had, and my apologies for neglecting to put this on the agenda. I just had been focused on other things. There was a request made, I believe, by council board member which multiple board members, I believe, actually, with regards to discussion of a kind of the process related to CAC requests to staff that are not related to items that are on the agenda. So there was a comment, there were some comments made about the call center and asking staff to provide data to the CAC about the call center, or workforce questions related to our project that have not been come up at the board. And so there was a request by Council Member Hannan for the board to discuss a process for how those requests should be made, and for the board to review the requests. Again, requests that are not related to agenda. I think anything that's on the agenda for the board, that's just sort of part of our current process. If someone has a question about the IRP, well, of course, we're going to be speaking to the IRP. But so perhaps now, I'm not sure that we're going to have an executive committee meeting in November. I think typically we don't have executive committee meetings the same week as a board meeting, and that would be the Friday before the Thanksgiving holiday, and certainly we're not going to have an executive committee meeting on the day after Thanksgiving. And then in December, we may not actually have an executive committee as such, given the turnover. So I guess it's kind of a question. This could simply be a topic that we address in January. We bring to the executive committee as it is constituted in January, because we may not have an executive committee meeting between now and then.
I have a question for you. I think it may make sense, just because we would be missing 2 months and we do have business that we're continuing forward with, and in case we want to do an extra set of vetting, of perhaps doing a special meeting sometime in early December of the e-board, just to and pencil that in, just in case something does come up from the board in general.
I think
just a placeholder there, and we provide ourselves an opportunity to be able to get workflow done.
Okay.
And we'll just keep that in sort of back of mind. And then depending on how the agenda items go, and if there's a need to do it, then we know, okay, we are ready, perhaps in the first week of December.
Absolutely. I think the one question I'm going to need to just check in with Inder about is terms. Different members have different terms. And so I'm not sure I believe, Diane, your term actually, you may not actually be able to serve on this board, for instance.
Unless my mayor pulls some funny business. My last day as a representative is December 6th.
So we might be that actually is not, that's doable though. I think if we did it that first, Adrian, you're raising your hand.
We do have a meeting scheduled for December 2nd.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, well, then, if that's the case, then I think if we just, so perhaps we agendize this on December 2nd, because that, okay, great, perfect.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do December 2nd, and that'll provide, I think, enough opportunity for us to have a forum.
Great.
And also so I think that would be wise to do that. And the other thing too, just under this item, there has been some discussion around in the past of moving away from the way the advisory committee is currently spread out geographically, and instead going by each city, because we've had increased the service area to Stockton, and so we would have representative from each city rather than one representative from you know, three cities or part of a county or something. That way we have a little bit more.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
Why don't we have sort of agendize just a general conversation around constitution and kind of engagement there, so we can talk about, do you want to move to 15 members, each from a different city, and then so essentially like each council for that matter can appoint somebody, and then. Because I don't believe like those details are not subject to the JPA, because we did, we've changed it before. And so anyway, that certainly could be something that could be agendized for sure.
Right,
So,
we can ask Ender just to go through the language and just see what the parameters might be. And just understand what the opportunities are. It doesn't necessarily make any decisions or recommendations, but at least we can start the conversation going about, a little bit of more representation. I do want to make sure that we are able to have enough people to participate, especially if we go into in-person meetings, next year. Have an opportunity to be able to have a quorum. So that has to be considered if we expand it, how does that look logistically? Would they be able to meet in the same kind of remote locations that the board is meeting in, or how we would accommodate that as well? So I'd like that to also be part of the conversation to see how it would look from a logistical standpoint.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I think that is it. Are there any further comments? Nope. Okay, then I think we are adjourned at 12:32. Thank you, everybody, and have a good weekend. Happy Halloween and Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you.